Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our March 5 City Council meeting. I'd ask that you join me in starting out with our traditional moment of silent reflection. And I think it's appropriate that we keep in our best thoughts, wishes, and prayers this evening our friends in Tennessee, dozens of which have succumbed to the tornadoes that struck there just a couple of days ago, and several folks still missing, hundreds of structures completely demolished, thousands of structures have been damaged. So let's keep the folks of the volunteer state in our best thoughts. Thank you very much. I see Jamie Powell back there. How you doing? Would you be so kind as to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be sure to give Senator Hamilton our best. No, he's working hard. I bet he will. Folks, I'm going to ask the council that we dispense with our agenda a bit. We'll get into guests and everybody else here very shortly. But we have a couple of three matters that brought a lot of folks out. I'd like to bring to the table F5, F6, and F7, and I would entertain a motion that we bring those matters together to the table for discussion. I have a motion by Mr. Sanders. Can I have a second to his motion?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Skinner. Is there any discussion on the motion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor of bringing F5, F6, and F7 to the table, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. I have a brief statement I'd like to read before we introduce some of the city players who have had a lot of involvement with F5, F6, and F7. So, as you already heard me say once, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you all know, we relaunched our Stockard Capital campaign in December of 2017. At that time, our city had about $149,000 toward building expansion here. Since jump-starting that campaign, we have amassed nearly $340,000 or another $190,000. We are thankful for the gifts of the Jenkins family and Jenkins Ford, $25,000, the Minsker family and Buckhannon Toyota, $20,000, Weyerhaeuser, $15,000, Tim Critchfield and High Point Construction, $11,000, Mike Ross, $10,000, and a host of other gracious donors, including many people in this room. Councilmember Dave Thomas also has pledged $12,000 toward our new building. In April of 2018, the SYCC board recommended and our council adopted a donor model that would authorize naming rights of our new building, the fill-in-the-blank arena at Stockard Youth and Community Center. Acquisition of naming rights required a gift of $100,000. The largest gift ever received by our city has been the $25,000 gift of the Jenkins family and Jenkins Ford made just last year toward our Stockard Capital campaign. We've been courting several people and enterprises in hopes of selling our naming rights. I am pleased to report this evening that subject to City Council's formal acceptance and as part of a larger transaction, that is the city's purchase of the Citizens Bank's drive-through property fronting on Madison Street, Citizens Bank will gift our SYCC campaign with $100,000 to take our capital campaign to nearly $440,000. Citizens CEO Nathaniel Bennell and the Citizens Board of Directors are friends of Buckhannon and support our SYCC programs and facilities. As we await word nearly any day now on our abandoned mine land grant application filed last summer, seeking $3.8 million for Stockard and River Trail expansion, this gift will only help with that application as Buckhannon further establishes its strong ownership in and support for this facility. Needless to say, this is a monumental moment in the nearly 26-year history of the Stockard programs. I remind you that Mrs. Joyce Stockard died on March 16, 1994, and we can only imagine how very pleased she would be about the work going on within this facility, including our plans to grow this facility and our excellent Stockard programs. We are averaging 13,000 plus youth hours monthly and another 1,000 hours of volunteer service time monthly. This facility enjoys nearly universal support of our BU community. As for the property along Madison Street, this real estate exceeding an acre is situated immediately across Madison Street from our Jawbone Park. This property, if acquired by our city, would yield enormous benefits to park attendees. Dozens of new parking spaces would be realized. Additional landscaping, public art, and utilitarian space involving the building located in the middle of this property would greatly enhance events at Jawbone, our public safety complex, and our Stockard facility. We are reminded that the city owns the large lot located immediately adjacent to and just to the west of this lot. I think Citizens Arena at SYCC has a really cool ring to it. I would first call upon Jerry Arnold and Jay Holland to walk us through some of the particulars regarding the potential development of this exciting opportunity. Jerry and Jay, do you want to come up and help us get started? I guess you got some drawings and maps to show us. Yes.
I asked Jay to do just a rendering of what parking layout down there would be, keeping in mind most of it would be green space or multi-purpose space and keeping the existing building. So but I can see we have, this is currently, let's see, make sure I'm in the right spot. This is our lot now. This is the property in question that we're talking about tonight. So Jay, you want to expound on that?
Well, yes, thanks for having me in here tonight. What you're looking at is leaving the existing drive-through building in its location, but removal of the drive-through canopies that were over the east and westbound lanes, and doing some retrofitting possibly to the building to add an additional restroom, because there's only one restroom there. And then we were kind of envisioning this as an additional restroom facility to help supplement the overflow from Jawbone Park on Festival Friday and other activities that may occur in Jawbone Park, as well as a residential green eating area. I mean, this is just my vision, but since this particular side faces East Lincoln Street, I was greening it up with trees and some soft spots, tables and stuff like that to soften the aesthetics and the looks on East Lincoln Street, whereas then I would have two entrances into this additional area off of Madison, and I'm looking at a combination green space and green permeable pavers. The darker green being the permeable pavers that vehicles could travel over, and then in the event of the carnivals, you know, that's here twice a year, they are designed in such a way that they would support the road load weights and stuff of some of the vehicles and trailers that they use. And then the light green, of course, would be just natural grass. I mean, it can be emphasized and highlighted with some permeable walkers, but I didn't put that in there in this concept. But as the mayor mentioned, you know, the Chase Bank lot at 1.03 acres and the existing parking lot at 0.26, just looking under 1.3 acres of additional space. 42 plus or minus parking spaces. I envision it being one direction in off of Madison Street, so as the activities disperse in the evenings or the day, whenever that is, all of the traffic exits out onto East Lincoln to allow pedestrians access across and out of the two spaces. That's the quick and dirty.
Thanks, Jay. A lot of work has gone into this rendering. Jerry, do you want to add anything to Jay's?
Just that there's one issue, I know there's been some talk about, potential business going into that area. There's a huge issue there on that lot. We have a large diameter sewer line that runs right through the middle of it.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's this dark green line running from East Lincoln all the way to Madison, basically splitting the lot in half. What that required and what prohibited some of the Citizens Bank development is those utilities, in order to utilize this lot fully, those utilities would have to be relocated to the perimeter of the property in order to make full use of said property. And it was going to be quite expensive because it was a six foot diameter concrete pipe to capture all the storm drain from south of East Lincoln and, dump into the Jawbone Run storm sewer system. So that was prohibitive at the time for Citizens Bank. And, just one of the obstacles that we were going to have to overcome. So that's why we came up with this concept of just green space, additional parking, overflow activities that could be used there, because none of the underground infrastructure would have to be relocated. I don't know if Jerry's going to touch on it, but I will with the other hat that I sometimes wear, the floodplain manager. This entire site is located within the floodplain, and it restricts the type of buildings and activities that can be conducted in there. And we can get into that in more detail if you would like, but that's why we just kind of opted to go for the permeable pavers. And when I say permeable, there's two kinds. They can be a stone type, or that you can get the kind that actually has grass growing between them, but the sub base is designed to handle vehicular loads. So, essentially it could be all grass, but, a designated area that I highlighted with this beige colored strip would be the limits and the curb stops for the parking lot, and designate or delineate some type of walkway.
Cool. Questions for Jay or Jerry? You guys are going to stick around. We can yell back to you if we need to. But, I'd like to ask Amby about thoughts on the dollar and cent side financially, where we stand. I know you've thought about this in the couple of weeks we've been kicking this around internally.
Yeah. It's, really, it's simple the way you do it. It's one of two things. You would either dip into your rainy day fund, or you would seek financing. And then if you seek financing, we have to, of course, go through all the proper channels to do that and try to get the best interest rate from the best place we could. So, there's two options.
The property is assessed in the amount of about $220,000. The property is appraised at about $340,000. So it's, I know some folks are highly concerned about the $200,000 amount, which is what Citizens paid for it when they acquired it from Chase 3 years ago next month. But all indications, as we talk with our appraisal friends, it's still a heck of a deal for the city. But anything else on the financial front? Because I want to ask Tom O'Neill to speak on the legal front, so that the council and all of our guests, some of whom want to speak about this, can understand the hoops that we would need to jump through to possibly make this happen. Tom?
Sure, thanks. If the council elects to proceed with this proposal, there are really two steps with respect to the acquisition of the property. The first would be the execution of a purchase sale agreement, which you have a draft of, or a copy of at least, in your packets, and then the adoption of a two-reading ordinance, which is drafted and which is on the agenda for consideration. That being the case, if those things pass, once the appropriate time limits pass and the due diligence period is undertaken, which will include inspections, title examination, and so forth, the transaction can proceed to close sometime during the latter half of April.
Thanks, Tom. We have a number of guests who signed up to speak about this matter. I'd like to start out with Dr. Rob Rupp. Rob, would you like to speak about the Stockard side of the project, more so than the parking lot development side.
Almost a century ago, this community built that school across the way. And now we're sitting here that the school has been closed, but it stands as a tribute, it stands as testimony that this city supports its children. And I'm proud of the fact that we were able to not only save it, the building, but the fact that it's being used so heavily by our kids. And that's our future. And I want to say, when you drive by it, it's not just an old brick building. It's a brick building that is a testimony to what our community do for children.
Thanks, Rob. Don Nestor, another part of the old guard at Stockard that goes back to its very origin, 1994.
With the emphasis on the old guard. Thank you. I think, just following up a little bit on what Rob mentioned, but also maybe expanding into the use of the lot there. I think Stockard has really been a very beneficial opportunity here for the community. And I think it's because everybody works together. It started out as an idea by Joyce Stockard, with the funds, with the county, the city, all the Board of Education, everybody kind of chipping in, Wesleyan. I think it's really worked. And you see all the hours there, and we get a monthly report on the board. There'll be 12 to 13,000 hours per month of kids involved in programs there. And when I talk to other people around my travels about the youth center that works, they're going, how do you get all the kids there? Well, it works because of all the effort with Deborah and the staff and everybody that supports it. So I think it's really a good deal. Really appreciate Citizens Bank with their $100,000 donation and the donation of all the other people. It works and people recognize that. From the standpoint of the space here, even though whether it's just a thought about that, I think one of the things we have here in Buckhannon is the downtown section. It's a vibrant section down here. It's you have filled storefronts. You have the festival Fridays. You have all this stuff that goes on here. And when you drive through downtown in Buckhannon, compared to some of the other cities that we drive through at night, it's not lonely, bare streets. There's a lot of activity going on because of the merchants and the people who contribute. I think something like this just makes it more of something you can expand on. So I think it fits very well with what's been going on here within the city. And you look at we don't have a big downtown part of the city, but what we have is very, very well maintained. A lot of activity going on at all levels of all stories of the buildings here. It's something we can really be proud of. And almost like in Stockard, it's because of a lot of people who put a lot of time and effort and dedication to make it work. And so I think that it's great that the city council and everyone's kind of pulling together on this, and together we make things happen. And so really appreciate that effort, and Stockard's just a great example of that. So.
Thanks, Don. Dan, you didn't sign in, but you're on the Stockard board. Did you want to speak about this?
Put me on the spot here. It's such a vital organization and part of our community that I don't think a lot of people really recognize how much it actually does. I mean, as a former teacher and stuff like that, I sometimes think that, maybe we need to go out and put it more out there PR-wise, because and do guided tours and stuff, because I don't think the average person knows. Like you said, 13,000 volunteer. I mean, you walk over there right now, the place is, got kids all over the place. You can go by any day, you see kids all over the place. And you see adults over there with the kids. So it keeps people tied to the community. And it's, I'm a walker. I walk around town, and I walk by Stockard all the time. And it's always, it's a hubbub. And it's nice to see in the middle of a town that so many towns are like, not there anymore, they're just decaying, so it's nice.
Thank you, Pam. Did anybody else come tonight to speak about Stockard or about the acquisition of the Citizens Bank property? A couple of folks want to speak to council, but they didn't indicate what they were wanting to speak about. Robin?
Yeah. I certainly am a big fan of Stockton Youth Center, and I think it's a wonderful addition to the city. I fully support it. My question is there a condition upon accepting the $100,000 gift from Citizens Bank that we name the arena after them and we buy bank property?
That's correct.
Okay, to me, in my mind, that's almost a quid pro quo. Any way you look at it. I don't think there should be conditions put on them giving us a gift. Now, I don't have a problem with naming the arena after them, that's fine, if they want to give such a big gift. But it should not be put together with, you have to buy the bank lot, or we will not give you the gift. That's where my problem is.
I think the planets aligned that these two things basically happen in a 1-2 kind of a way. The bank felt that they got a good deal on the property by paying $200,000 for a $340,000 parcel of property. 1 point something acres right in the heart of town. As the discussion ensued, as the city expressed its interest, and the council authorized me to talk with Citizens Bank probably 2 years ago about the how we could, what price we might reach with them. And from the very get-go, they were, it's like, we got to get out of it what we have in it. Okay, well, 200,000 bucks, that's a lot of money. So as the council and the Stockard board approved the model with the naming rights of the new building, the new arena at Stockard Youth Center, to be sold for $100,000. That wasn't my doing, that was the board of directors and the city council's doing. I started having another conversation with Nathaniel Buckhannon. Okay, we don't want to pay $200,000, but we got something else that you might be interested in. What if you became the naming rights? Well, what would that cost us? $100,000. So you're trying to tell me that you're going to take this property that we paid $200,000 for, and we're only going to get $100,000 out of it? Well, there's value in naming rights. That's when we established that model a couple of years ago. We recognized that whoever invested in that $100,000 over a period of time, which we did not identify initially, it could have been a lifetime right, it could have been a 10-year thing. We've negotiated that for the next 20 years, the bank would have the opportunity to call it the Citizens Arena, which is a pretty cool name. So, yeah.
It's the fact that there's a condition put on it. You have to buy the bank lot first, or you don't get the $100,000. Is what's bothering me. And also that there is no money budgeted already for this. You're gonna have to go into something else whenever we're not real sure what the budget is yet for the old theater that's being fixed up. So we don't know exactly how much money is still in that. We're in the middle of that. So that's my concern. I don't think it's a good business venture to say, okay, we'll buy something from you that you bought that you probably don't want anymore if you give us $100,000.
Colonial Theater, not that it has anything to do with Stockard or this purchase, has been funded 100% through state grants and gifts from people in the community. We've raised over $400,000 in the last 3 years to sustain the Colonial Theater. Other than city labor, which has been involved in parts of the project, the actual acquisition and material costs of that project have been realized through state grants and gifts. So it's a different situation than what we have with this situation. Who else would like to be heard relative to Stockard Youth Center and the prospects of acquiring the Madison Street property from Citizens Bank? Mr. Nestor.
Guys, add a little more perspective to it, and I think Robin, it's a valid concern. I think everybody has concern about the whole deal, any deals we went to. But I think from the bank standpoint, I talked to Nathaniel at the Chamber of Commerce banquet, and knew, because we had talked about it at Stockard, that this announcement was going to be made. And he very, very positively came out and said they are very much in support of what's going on in Buckhannon. They want to be a part of the community. He was very much wanted to support the youth here, and he felt that was a good opportunity for them. And just thinking about, Rob, going back to the Development Authority, when we started the Development Authority here, we needed $100,000 a year for a 3-year commitment. And there was a group of us who went out to the banks and to the hospital and to the county and the city and to Wesleyan and said, we need a commitment for you guys. And the banks all came forward and they stepped up. And I think that's something that we're fortunate to have, banks with people you can talk to. A lot of the banks, you can't find somebody that's out there it's the bank. But who do you talk to? It's hard to find that person that really makes the decisions. Nathaniel's one of these people. We have other people who know the banks here. But I think I think it's nice to see a bank that's willing to make that commitment to be here, like we have other businesses and other banks have. So,
Anyone else want to speak about these opportunities? Council, we have brought F5, F6, and F7 all to the table. I would entertain a motion, let's take these up one at a time, that relative to item F5, 15 Madison Street property, 1.03 acres from Citizens Bank, authorizing the execution of a purchase agreement. I'd entertain a motion that we acquire this property.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Sanders. May I have a second to his motion? CJ? I think we lost him. CJ? You might have really taken it up. Hey,
I second it. I had to.
okay. I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Skinner.
I see the positives on both sides of this coin, and that being acquiring a piece of property that could be beneficial to us on Madison Street, while also supporting Stockert Youth Center. I spent a lot of time in Stockert Youth Center as a kid, playing basketball in their program, and I think it's a great part of our community, as are anything that we can do to support youth in our community. But there's just a couple things. We talk about an appraisal. Can we see that? Do we have a hard copy of the appraisal to view to prove that it's what it's worth? I'd like to see that before we make this deal. I'm an insurance agent, and we do a lot of work in the flood zone. Flood zones can be very problematic to development, even when it comes to something as simple as concrete or blacktop. So I would like to explore how that would affect, our proposal here. I'd like the opportunity to develop a strategic plan to determine where this fits on the priority list of our street department. We have, it's no secret, we have several irons in the fire when it comes to our street department. We are limited with our manpower in what we have to work with. We do have a list of items that need attention across our community. I don't really want to call it deferred maintenance, but I've learned that term from Dad over at the college for years. But I mean, you could call it that with several streets and areas that need work. We have an existing parking lot that is right next to Jawbone Park. And since I've been on city council, we've been talking about reconfiguring the fire department lot and maximizing the space there for green space as well as parking. That has not yet been completed. And I'd like to figure out exactly what the cost of this acquisition is what the cost of this project is gonna be, including the acquisition when it's completely finished. What does it look like as a finished product? Can we develop a budget for that? I understand that the Citizens Bank $100,000 gift is not going to be a lump sum $100,000. It's going to be provided to us over time. So we're going to, the likelihood of us having to put some financing together looks pretty high. So I just want to make sure that we have a well thought out plan for this purchase, because the larger of the two from a money standpoint is the addition of this property. And I mean, I don't want it to be construed that I'm against Stockert Youth Center. That's not it at all. I just want to make sure with this purchase that we have all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted, and that we're considering, everything because as you've made comments before, Mayor, and others have about, other properties along that street. How does this tie in? Do we have a master strategic plan as to what we'd like to see in that area? And I'd like to just explore, kind of put the brakes on this deal for tonight, not say no to it indefinitely, but put the brakes on it tonight to kind of explore those options before we go ahead and say yes to this. I'm a numbers guy, and I like to see the numbers before we just say, sure. That's where my position is.
Okay. Mr. Sanders?
Well, I look at it from the standpoint of both investment by the city and helping the Stockert Youth Center. In my business, I'm recruited. I'm aggressively approached by cities in 3 different states. I produce events in Indiana, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. And I'm constantly approached by CVBs, by city governments to bring my event to their town for economical reasons. They want to build the economics of the community. When I stand on the stage of Jawbone Park and I look out at the Festival of Friday events and some of the things that we've done there, I can see a potential of growth that can do that can allow our CVB to go out and explore other events that can come into the community, fill up hotel rooms, fill up restaurants, fill up parking spaces, bring economic growth to our area in an abundance. It is an investment. It will take time to develop that property. But again, we're such a wonderful community, and we're almost big enough for this event, but not quite. We're almost big enough for that event, but not quite. And I think that any time that we can take advantage of a situation like this and expand our opportunities for economic growth, it's not just Festival Fridays. The CVB has the power, Chamber has the power, this community has the power to go out and find some aggressive activities that can come into the area and pump dollars into our economy if we have the space to allot for it. Now, it's a seasonal space if you're looking at it from that standpoint, but we can take advantage of those efforts. So I'm looking at it from both a standpoint of extending what we already have. One of the things I was thrilled about with this town, with Jawbone Park, to see what was taken, its original state, and turned into something so magnificent. And now we can expand upon that. I mean, this is just a natural fit for it. And then we have the added benefit of having another $100,000 put into the coffers of Stockert Youth Center, which that's the one board that I sat on as a city recorder that I actually have a vote. The other boards, I'm just there to take the minutes and observe. And the Stockert Youth Center has become a part of what I think about now. I think about it as Rob and Don and Pam and the others say, the kids. You know, when we go to a meeting in there, you kind of step around the kids to get to the meeting, and that's fantastic. That is marvelous. So the closer we can get to the new edition of Stockert, the better. And with this deal sitting on our desk right now, I think it's a win-win.
Thanks, Randy. CJ, you still there, or did you nap off?
No, I'm here. So I have advocated for the acquisition of this property pretty much since Chase Bank stopped using it. The expanding the capacity for events at Jawbone Park is going to serve everyone's needs. The property's been sitting basically vacant for ever since Chase stopped using it. It's been for sale, and no private sector enterprise has shown interest. And I think it's a great opportunity to expand the capacity for fest fairs and festivals, and to help Stockard accomplish their goal of a new facility. And I also would agree with what David said in his opening, in that this private sector money supporting that project will, I think, positively affect the possibility of getting the grant. It shows community interest and support, and when people are making grants, they want to have success stories. The communities that support their organizations and entities are always better off. So I strongly support the acquisition of this.
Thanks, CJ. Mary Albaugh has joined us by telephone too. Jerry, I'll let you.
I'm gonna bring her up here in a second.
You're gonna bring
You're gonna bring Mary up.
Put her right there.
Posted her.
Put her right there in her chair. Pam, you're next.
Okay. I am 100% for Stockard Youth. I've been on the board ever since we took it over. I do not believe that property down there is worth $340,000 to anybody except us, okay? No, I don't see anybody in line wanting to buy that property. I don't know of anything it could be used for because of the flood zone. I still believe we could get it for less than $200,000 because the bank wants to get rid of it. And we are the only ones who really needs it and could use it. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't get it, but I think we should get a better deal on it. And I don't like Robin says, I don't like conditions. If somebody wants to give you a gift, they're going to give it to you. If we don't buy that property, we don't get the money. That's all it comes down to. There's a lot of people who's given money. The naming rights, we said all along, yes, if somebody give $100,000, they could have the naming rights, which I think, we still have to have a little say in that also. But here's another thing. If I didn't realize we weren't going to get the lump sum of $100,000, okay?
Yeah, I've never heard that either.
Okay.
I'm told we'll get a check for $100,000 when we close.
That's
Okay.
what I heard.
Well, here's,
I don't know who you're talking to.
I
but I'm
spoke to a
talking-
board member.
Well, I'm talking to their CEO, Nathaniel Bonnell.
well, here's another thing. If we borrow the money, which I don't want to get in our rainy day fund, we borrow the money, who are we going to borrow the money from? Their bank? Are they going to give us really low interest? Do you know? Where are we going to get this money?
Amby, do you want to address that?
We always do shop rates when we do that. I mean, there's procedures to go through for that. We don't just pick a bank.
Also, JB, I want to ask you a question. If we develop that over there, what's it going to be? Because I know in the past, our fire chief did not like for us to close Madison Street off. Is that going to be able to be doing that if we're going to make parking and make it more accessible for people for Jawbone Park?
Planned closures, I don't have a problem with.
Okay.
We've had planned closures in the past, as long as we know about it.
I just remember Mitch Tacey, we had this conversation before, but did not want us closing those streets because of them getting out on the main road, because it's easier access.
As long as we have time to plan for it, we can work around a street closure.
Okay. And another thing, I am for developing more down at Jawbone Park, but right now I see Jawbone Park basically used 3, maybe 4 months out of the year. I've tried myself for the Christmas holiday seasons to get people involved and do things down there, and you can't get people to do anything. So I'm seeing about 7 or 8 months it's not even going to be used, hardly at all. But I would like to see us have a town hall meeting and see what the public would have to say about us doing this, because it is their money we're spending. But I am not against it. I'm not saying I'm against it, but I think there's a better plan for it, so.
Mr. Thomas?
Boy, this has been an interesting conversation so far this evening. And I had several phone calls this afternoon when I was working out in my garage and doing some things in the yard. And from a very practical standpoint, the property is really going to cost us $100,000 because we're paying $200,000. We'll immediately get $100,000 back, which we'll dedicate towards the Stockard. I'm very much in support of Stockard. Conceptually, I'm in support of this whole project. In fact, when David first got elected as the mayor, I called him up and I said, look, in my opinion, would it go out and borrow a couple $1 million because the cost of interest is so low, the cost of money is so low because of the interest rate. Let's do some things that are visionary for the future of Buckhannon and Upshur County. And I thought the Chase was one of those areas, the Latham House, et cetera, et cetera. Plus, we have terrible infrastructure problems with her. You can almost get lost in a pothole if you're not careful today. But I thought about coming to the meeting and maybe saying, let's table this for one more council meeting, but give an opportunity, as Pam had suggested, for a town hall, and ask all the candidates who are running for city council, recorder, and mayor as to what they think. Where do they have a vision for the future of the community? You know, and it would be interesting. We got 10 people running for council. We're going to have 5 people that are positions are going to be up. What do they think about this? I would like to know a little bit more details, David. I don't think we've had enough opportunity to throw out an opportunity saying that, hey, we're thinking about making a pretty big investment in town. I think that's good for us long term. You know, I remember I first came on the council when we bought the public safety complex. And we had a fee we initiated and had a sunset clause. I like that concept. I think that's a great idea. I'm not saying we do that. But the bottom line is, this is something that would be good for the community long term. Exactly how we get to it, I'm less worried about the quid pro quo, so to speak. I'm so tired of hearing that on the TV. I can't stand it, or the radio rather. But I support Stockard. I made a fairly significant pledge. I may not be done yet, but I would like to get this piece of property. You know, Citizens Arena, that's only for 20 years. Maybe it should be for 10 years. But we still have some things we have to put together. What labor are we going to use? I don't want to use city employees anymore to do some of these projects because they fall behind on some of their infrastructure issues. So there's some things that have to still be hammered out, David. But conceptually, I think it's a great idea. I think Latham House, we need to do something with that also, because that's part of that whole area down there. And that would be a magnificent addition to our city.
Thanks, Dave. Mary, are you with us?
Yes, sir, I am, and I've heard everybody talking, comments.
It's your turn.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you allowing me to chime in here. I just got off the plane and I'm sitting out here in my car, but I want you to know that this mayor and council have the responsibility to take advantage of the gift horse we got. We've got an opportunity because we all believe in Stockard youth. And I believe that our youth of our children are the greatest asset of our city of Buckhannon and Upshur County, because it's just not city kids, it's Upshur County children. And we're always talking about doing more for them, doing more for them. And I think that's the future of us, okay? They are the future. They're the future leaders. And I believe in Mrs. Stockard's belief of having a place for the children. And I think we've got a great deal on the table. I've gone over this with Andy Jenkins, our finance officer, and it's nothing any different than we've done a little bit the naming rights and all that. That's just stuff, okay? So I'm not going to sit here and ramble anymore. I'm going to tell you that I am supporting this. We need this for the future of our children and of our city of Buckhannon, okay? Everything that we've done in the past 6 years, no, maybe 4 years, okay? Maybe even before that, before I was on council. But I believe in this, and I support it wholeheartedly. I say, no more delays. This council has gone back and forth. We had plenty of time. I was gone for 5 days, and I made up my mind after talking to Andy Jenkins. She is the money lady. She knows how to do this. Mayor McCauley knows. Okay, our city attorney knows. And I support, and we got a motion already on it?
We do. We have a motion and a second.
All right.
Is there any further discussion?
Not for me, sir, no.
All right, I'm going to do a roll call vote. Mary, how do you vote? For or against?
Yes.
Mr. Skinner?
Are we going to see an appraisal or develop a strategic plan?
At some point.
I'd rather see that first, so no.
But Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Mr. Rylands?
Yes.
Mrs. Bucklew?
I'm going to abstain right now.
Abstain. Mr. Thomas?
David, I would like to suggest that you put together a small committee to work out the details. And if that would be done, I would vote yes.
Okay, well, this is a first reading, so we got 2 weeks to work out the
Yeah,
details.
I
So
think
is your
that-
vote tonight yes?
I'll vote yes for that, but I'll be pushing for the other thing.
And the mayor votes yes. The vote is 5 votes for, 1 vote against, and 1 abstention. Now, let's go ahead and take F6 up, which is formal acceptance of the $100,000 gift from Citizens Bank for naming rights of the new arena at the Stockert Youth and Community Center. This would give naming rights to citizens. I would entertain a motion that we accept the $100,000 gift.
So moved.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Sanders and a second by Mrs. Albaugh. Is there discussion on the motion?
Just a quick, sorry, go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
This is, so, okay, just so I understand the order here. So this, by voting to this, this has nothing to do with 5 or 7. These are separate. So we're formally accepting a gift. I guess I'm wondering why these are 3 separate things, but I guess.
Tom, do you want to explain?
I can expand on that a little bit. The vote on F5 was to authorize the mayor to execute the purchase sale agreement. That was the vote that was just taken. F6 is to accept the gift that is outlined in the memorandum of understanding that council approved at a prior meeting. F7 is first reading of the ordinance authorizing the purchase of the property.
And the gift is a lump sum?
That's what's provided for in the purchase agreement, and that's what's been represented by Mr. Bennell.
Okay, and it's for 20 years.
We just may want to clarify that because I was contacted by a board member yesterday afternoon and just a conversation back and forth that did, maybe there's disconnect with the board. We just may want to clarify.
There is going to be a donor agreement entered into sometime before closing, before the delivery of the check that will memorialize all of these terms. This is accepting the amount. This is accepting the gift. The details, to the extent that those details are not already provided for in the memorandum of understanding or the purchase sale agreement that's already been authorized, then they can be dealt with in that donor agreement.
Mr. Thomas, you had a comment.
Well, it's for 20-year naming rights.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what's provided for in there.
And my understanding is a lump sum.
That's correct. Any other discussion on the motion? I'm going to call for the question. Again, I'll do a roll call vote. Mrs. Albaugh, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Skinner?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders,
Yes.
Mr. Rylands,
Yes.
Mrs. Bucklew,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
And the mayor votes yes. The minutes will reflect that the acceptance of the $100,000 gift has been unanimously derived. Ordinance 443, first reading. Mr. O'Neill, I'll turn it over to you for the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I will read the ordinance by caption and then address any questions that might arise. Ordin-
Mary, can you stick in there for just another minute?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 443 of the city of Buckhannon, an ordinance approving the purchase of all that lot or parcel of land and all the buildings and appurtenances thereupon and thereunto belonging, situated fronting on the south side of Madison Street with a commonly known address of 15 Madison Street, presently titled in the name of Citizens Bank of West Virginia Incorporated, and specifically authorizing the net expenditure of $200,000 of municipal funds for said purchase. This is the first of 2 readings.
Tom, I can't divorce myself from having done your job for 33 years. The state statutes require when a city buys property or sells property, it has to be done by an ordinance. So this is to make us compliant with state statutes. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
All right. So we have a motion, do I have a motion that we adopt on the first of 2 readings, ordinance 443 of the city of Buckhannon?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Thomas. May I have a second to his motion?
Second.
Second.
I heard Mr. Sanders first, Mary, sorry. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Calling for the question, all those in favor of adopting 443 on the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, like sign.
Aye.
Mr. Skinner and Mrs. Bucklew vote no. The other 5 members of council vote yes.
I guess, do I need to abstain since I abstained from
It's
F5?
up to you.
So there really isn't,
So do you want to abstain or do you want to vote no?
okay. I'm gonna abstain.
The roll will be corrected to reflect 5 votes for, 1 vote against, and 1 abstention. Folks who have come here to talk about the Stockard Youth Center or the parking stuff, why don't we take a 60-second break and let you all depart if you so choose, or you're more than welcome to stick around for the rest of the meeting. So thank you all for coming out.
Yeah, you are. You're Kane's right beside you.
Mary, we're going to let you go, okay?
You're excused from school.
All right, now we'll get back to our agenda, and we have a couple of guests. First, Leah Barber is here to discuss, she's the West Virginia Field Consultant for the Moms Clean Air Force. Leah, do you want to come up to the podium here, and you can tell us about this new endeavor that you're involved with, the Moms Clean Air Force.
Alrighty. Well, good evening. I want to first begin by thanking Mayor McCauley for inviting me to speak before City Council tonight, and to also extend that gratitude to everybody in attendance, as well as my moms who are here in support. As was stated, my name is Leah Barber, and I'm currently the West Virginia Field Organizer for Moms Clean Air Force. We're a community of moms, dads, and caregivers who are focused on air pollution and climate and how it affects the health of our children. I'm a proud resident of Upshur County and the community of Buckhannon. As families, there are only so many things we can do and control from day to day to promote the health and wellness of our children. Addressing issues like air pollution and damage to the climate require the attention of an engaged and caring community to effect positive change. An engaged and caring community like the one we are all a part of here in Buckhannon. I'm here tonight to propose the revitalization of a sustainability board for the city, because I believe that we as a community have the power to affect change that will result in gains to our health and environment, all while boosting our local economy and capacity for energy efficiency. It is important, I realize, to make our goals attainable and to have a clear plan moving forward. So I have a few resources with me tonight that I can circulate as well. One of them being a partnership of between Eco America and Path to Positive. They have developed a moving forward guide, which I've given you a copy of at our first meeting. Basically, this guide is for civic leaders in small or mid-sized communities who want to lead on climate and sustainability, but may lack full-time sustainability staff, or who may have never focused on climate before. It could serve as a really great reference for our board with ideas and resources to begin action. By addressing climate at the local level, we can create a healthier community for all residents, protect residents vulnerable to extreme weather conditions, as well as populations with vulnerable health conditions, save money by cutting waste and promoting local renewables, spur economic vitality and business investments, build property values and improve public safety by reducing climate risks, and restore natural assets that can help to protect from climate impacts. So some components of such a board moving forward, as I recognize we've had one in the past, I just know it's not very active right now. So maybe moving forward, we would invite Mayor McCauley to initiate the clear directive of such a board and engage in responsible climate leadership by representing the city of Buckhannon as a climate mayor. Climate Mayors were founded in 2014. They are a bipartisan peer-to-peer network of United States mayors working together to demonstrate leadership on climate change through meaningful actions within their communities and to express and build political will for effective federal and global policy action, which we are lacking severely as part of our current state of affairs. Developing a climate action plan would be the second directive in outlining our common goals, setting near and long-term emissions targets, as well as creating sustainability indicators. This could involve, as a baseline, a greenhouse gas audit of our city, something that we could partner with Wesleyan on, I'm sure, if they wanted to get involved. Some other community-based actions we could take might include a non-idling ordinance by city parks, schools, and youth centers, having community weatherization trainings, increasing energy efficiency in our public works and utility sectors, considering the use and place of plastics in our community in a world where our environment is at its carrying capacity for one-time use items. It is also important to celebrate the efforts which are already in place. I know our horticulture program is often highlighted for its sustainability attributes by using organic growing methods. The Complete Streets effort is definitely sure to invite pedestrians into a pleasurable experience while canvassing town. I know we have some high-efficiency LEDs, expanding nature trails, etc. Those are all noted and encouraged. So many thanks to Mayor McCauley and to active and engaged citizens, as well as city staff and council members for your exemplary leadership efforts to grow our town and make it a wonderful place to live and raise a family. I hope to work together and collaborate and expand on these efforts in the future.
Can you resend the climate mayor element of this so that we can make it a part of our packet for the next meeting?
I can.
And then we'll put it under strategic so the council can authorize us to join the ranks of folks who are environmentally friendly. Does that sound like a good plan?
Sure.
So while Leah is here, does anybody have any questions for her or comments about this program, Randy?
Could I get a copy of your statement?
Yes.
Is that possible? Okay.
Yep.
You said you want a board?
A sustainability board or committee, I don't know, whichever would be more effective under our current dynamic, but
And what kind of individuals are you looking for?
We have a green sustainable committee already, but I think, as I understand it, Leah would like the city to join the group that mayors who are green, sustainable, friendly. That's really what you want us to do, and to better
I think it would be
activate.
advisable to have, people who are representative of these efforts. We could have like economic development people on this type of board. We could have a public works official or street department person on the board, a citizen, somebody who's knowledgeable about these issues as well.
We'll dust off the committee members and remind the council next time. It's been a while since we had a meeting of that group.
Do you have measurable, attainable ways to whether or not you're meeting some of these goals or not?
Yeah, I do. I do outline, and I've also reached out to colleagues who and a colleague who lives in rural Montana who has championed these efforts in her own community. She's currently a council seat now, but before, when she brought this forth to her community, basically the first thing that they were able to do in their community was have a city-county partnership to try to help alleviate some of the costs with regard to hiring, getting like an intern, an engineering intern, somebody who could set the baseline, like quantify the data and set those sustainability indices that I was talking about, short-term and long-term.
Is this part of your career? Are you-
Mine personally?
Yeah. I mean, are you an environmentalist or environmental science or engineer?
Yeah, I graduated from West Virginia University with a degree in environmental protection.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments for Leah? We'll put some things on our agenda for the meeting on the 19th, and we'll take some steps to reactivate our semi-dormant Green Sustainable Committee, okay? But you're going to be appointed to it.
I'd love to.
That's the problem.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Totally
Dave.
safe.
We appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I don't know that we have any guests to actually speak about Joyce Stockard, but at 6:30 this evening, we dedicated the little plaza area in front of the Stockard Youth and Community Center in honor of the late Joyce Stockard. There's all kinds of information in your packet about Mrs. Stockard. I think folks oftentimes assume that since her husband, Tommy Stockard, was a prominent lawyer in Buckhannon, that the facility was named for him or after him. When Tom Stockard died, he left almost all of his $7 million estate to the University of Virginia Law School in Charlottesville, Virginia. Mrs. Stockard was left $600,000 by Mr. Stockard. She lived about another year and a half after his death, and she left $500,000, which was about all that she had, to the Stockard Youth Center, to establish the Stockard Youth Center. So Shauna, you were one of the ladies who spoke earlier as we kicked off Women's History Month. Did you want to say anything else about Mrs. Stockard or her gracious gift to the community back in 1994?
Well, as I said in my comments earlier, she had no children of her own, but she has impacted the children of our community and will continue to do so, as we have discussed earlier this evening, moving forward with the expansion of Stockard. So I, as a mother and as a citizen of this community, am ever grateful to her for her graciousness. So.
Thank you. Abby, you also spoke about Joyce Stockard earlier. You want to say anything else about her?
Again, strong ladies with forethought in what develops a community and and contributes to the quality of life in the community. I just left that building and it is packed to the brim with children in just about every room over there. So whatever we can do to keep that moving would be awesome.
Thanks, Abby. Our next guest is Sandra Bennett with the West Virginia Strawberry Festival. Sandra, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you tonight?
Doing okay, I think.
I think you have a letter of request that I sent after meeting with the consolidated board.
I think there was a letter presented, and then you and Jerry and Brad got together and tweaked it.
Yeah, the fire department, and the police department, and Jerry and I got together and I gave you I sent in the updated
As soon as I get my slow fingers here to find it, I can read it quickly to council, and then they can take the action down below. Maybe.
I'm looking through.
I'm struggling to find the letter. Could I steal yours for just a moment? Or maybe borrow would be a better word.
I think maybe you better.
We'll run a copy and give it to you. It's shown as letting us approve it, but I'll read it real quickly. All right, this letter is dated February 7. Honorable Mayor McCauley and City Council. Dear Mayor McCauley and council members of the West Virginia Strawberry Festival Association, Inc. would like to request funding to cover the Queen's Float, $1,500, Coronation, $2,500, 1/4 of Banjo and Fiddle Contest, $1,000, for a total of $5,000. Any funding would be greatly appreciated. the West Virginia Strawberry Festival Association, Inc. would like to make the following request for the use of city-owned property and services during the 79th annual event on May 9 through 17, 2020. 1, the use of the parking lot across from the Buckhannon Post Office, along with Jawbone Park area for the carnival or additional spaces for gamble amusement from May 12 to 17, 2020. 2, permission for the 5 parades to use Strawberry Lane, Marion, Canal, and Main Streets as the parade route. 3, the use of Camden Avenue, Pocahontas, Wood, Randolph, Tucker, Marion, College for the purpose of parade lineup for all 4 parades. 4, permission to place licensed vendors and marketing booths on various locations throughout the city, Spring Street and Main Street. 5, permission to use Main Street from City Hall to the courthouse for the Wednesday evening, May 13, 2020 car show, with streets closed from 5 p.m. till 10 p.m. Also Friday and Saturday, May 15, 16, 2020, street parties. The street will need to be closed following the parades. This time is needed to do setup. The activities will conclude by 12 midnight each evening. 6, permission to block Friendly Way to Madison Street during carnival hours. 7, the use of the parking lot on Spring Street for vendors and supply trucks, the parking lot at the Buckhannon Fire Department. 8, the use of the Buckhannon River Ramp area for the purpose of a canoe race, May 17, 2020, that's Sunday, and May 9, 2020 for parking of horse trailers. 9, the use of city water and dumpsters on the food vendor lot, also the dumpster at the Latham House. 10, the complimentary sanitary sewage dumping for visiting buses. 11, the use of the Buckhannon Fire Department's yard hydrant for a water hose EMS needs on Grand Feature Parade Day, May 16, 2020 at City Library. 12, request for any street repair along the parade route to avoid accidents. 13, the use of the city workers to help with street decorations need to be up by May 8, 2020. 14, requesting road closed barricades for parade lineup streets. List will be given to Street Department, copy enclosed. City does not have enough barricades, will assist with chains and signs. 15, request for the participation of the City Police Department during Festival Week. We will work with the chief on special arrangements for the various events. 16, request for Jawbone Park for May 8, 2020 for Tenderton Group to hold a concert and sell refreshments from 4 p.m. till 8:30 p.m. 17, permission for carriage rides the day of the Horse and Carriage Parade, along with entertainment on the sidewalks on Main that day, May 9th. Rides Spring Street around Block to Main and back to Spring. Block off Main Street from Spring to Kanawha for Square Dance from 7 till 10 p.m. Festival will be responsible for cleanup if needed. 18, no parking on Horse and Carriage Parade route from Courthouse to City Library, and police will direct traffic up on the streets to make safe for riders and carriages and the public. 19, use of Stockert bus on May 9, 2020 to transport persons from College Avenue to Moore Avenue and back after the parade for awards. 20, use of police fire complex for staging before the horse show on Saturday, May 9, and horsemen will clean up with help from the festival. 21, use of area along Poundstone Walking Trail for camping on May 8, 2020 if needed. 22, use of Jawbone Park Saturday, May 9, 2020 for pet show and banjo, fiddle contest along with sound system. 23, use of Spring Street parking lots for family night, May 11, 2020, no school, so planning afternoon of games. 24, request the use of the Spring Street parking lot for concert and backyard cookout on May 9 and 11. We'll need to set stage on Friday, May 8. 25, no vendor parking from Main to alley behind the buildings, Kaufman's office, on North Spring, requested to keep this area open. And 26, extra trash cans needed around the parade route, Main Street and Jawbone Park. In addition to these above requests, We appreciate the normal customary activities that the city does during the week of festival. For example, additional police protection, waste pickup, and street cleaning, and much more. The Board of Directors would like to thank the city for their contributions, both monetary and otherwise, given to the festival and its board each year. Sincerely, Sandra Bennett, President, 79th West Virginia Strawberry Festival. Council, it's my recommendation. Jerry, did you want to say anything about this? You basically sat down with Sandra and negotiated these points, is that correct?
I was invited down for the emergency meeting with the fire, police, and state county officials and the OEM. And from that, I took that letter and asked Sandra to make some modifications to it because there was some things in there that we just couldn't do. And she responded, did that, and this is the revised letter, so I was fully supportive.
So any of the concerns that you or Matt or JB would have had have been incorporated in here, is that a fair statement?
We're good.
You have 5 parades, but you're using Camden, Pocahontas, Wood, Randolph, Tucker, Marion, College for lineup for 4 parades. One parade you don't use those areas for lineup.
The horse and carriage comes from, from the old plant in West St. College.
Okay. And then the only thing on 7, was that to be combined? You're asking for use of the parking lot on Spring Street as well as the parking lot at Buckhannon Fire Department?
Sometimes we need both those areas.
Okay.
Carnival uses part of it too.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
Any other questions for Sandra? Council, it's my recommendation that we accept this recommendation. I'm going to invoke Chair's prerogative and bring F1 to the table. May I have a motion that I have a motion by Mr. Thomas. Can I have a second? I have a second by Mr. Sanders. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Call for the question. All those in favor of approving F1 and allowing me to execute this letter of agreement with the West Virginia Strawberry Festival, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, like sign, motion carries, Sandra. So,
Thank you.
you know, whatever you need, you just.
Thanks for all your work, Sandra.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any way we can.
Appreciate all your help.
Thanks for the great work.
The city, we wouldn't be able to do it.
Thanks,
a lot.
I have a great fondness for the festival.
Yeah.
This is my last year.
Oh, that's what
Oh, you've said that before.
Next year's the 8th.
After almost 50 years of being involved in some way, I think it's time to step aside.
But it's the 80th next year.
I know, but
That's why you have to stay 1 more year.
Thomas is 80th next year.
Hey, smart.
First up is Kelly Cronin said Callie is not here, but Abby Sager gave her some stuff to tell us about. Our volunteer center director, Abby Sager. Abby, how's it going?
It's good. So I have 2 events to talk to you guys about and let you all know. So we have a Buckhannon Volunteer Center open house. We want to have that April 2nd, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Opera House. Basically, it's going to be 2 hours. One is going to be snacks, information, icebreakers, and then the second hour we're going to do volunteer bingo, where it's mostly just bingo, but we're going to bring some spotlight on our agencies and community partners in the bingo board, and we just want to kind of cultivate our connections with the community. It's April, so it's spring, so we made the theme kind of grow with us or bloom with Buckhannon Volunteer Center. So we're focusing on spring and cultivating our connections. So during this event, we're going to have signups for our next event, which is April 9th, and we do have the statewide Make It Shine program that happens the 1st to the 15th of April. And the Buckhannon Volunteer Center is hosting a cleanup of the Buckhannon City Park on the 9th in the evening. So that we mostly are inviting anybody to come out to volunteer. We're going to clean up the park. And I believe there's supposed to be an Easter egg hunt hosted by the Buckhannon Lions Club that next weekend. So we just kind of want to make that look nice for that event.
The now known as the Matt Hines Memorial this year.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I gave you guys those flyers. I have some extra if anybody's interested. And that's all I have for you.
Questions for Gabby and sitting in for Callie, who's on vacation this week? I think she's in San Francisco, is that right? Boy, San Francisco, quite a town. Thank you, Gabby, appreciate you.
They can have it.
Next up is the Stockard Youth and Community Center Director, Deborah Brockelman. How's it going, Deborah?
Doing fantastically. Everything at the youth center is awesome, but I'll give you a few highlights. After school tutoring going very well. We have approximately 58 to 60 children attending daily. We have 13 students tutoring weekly and 15 to 20 students who participate in the homework help. Our winter basketball program just ended on Saturday with tournaments all day. Overall, the season went very well, very few issues. The only issue, gym time, and having to reschedule to meet the needs with the high school program as well. We're planning a bingo fundraiser at the end of this month on March 29th at the Moose Club. Doors will open at 12 o'clock and bingo will begin at 1. The cost is $25 for 20 games, including the coverall, which is the last game for the big prize. Over spring break, we'll have open gym, and we're planning a spring dance or teen activity in April as well. We also have, we're in the planning stages of an activity during the Strawberry Festival Junior Royalty Parade. We may be participating in the parade in addition to the drill team, or we might just have an activity at Stockard that evening. Not sure, we're still working on it. Also planning summer camp, which starts the first week of June. We'll have registration forms available April 1st. We're only licensed for 60 kids a day, so we end up with a waiting list that it usually works out as people go on vacation, but we'll still have a waiting list. And our youth involvement hours for February were 12,597. That's all.
You reminded me at the board meeting the other day that it's February, so that's the reason we didn't hit the 13,000 mark, right?
Yes, and I've just noticed this. I must have sent Teresa the wrong report. I also wanted to share one more thing that we're working on. We want to start a parent group, something similar to a PTO or a boosters program, just to get parents or community members involved to help with fundraising activities, and also maybe helping with the implementation of new programs, or just things that we can do to enhance what we already have. But having a, more of a focus group with the parents, we've been talking a lot about that. And I think at some point, we want to get that created and possibly have a designated person from the group to attend the board meetings and participate in what's going on within the board as well.
Sure. Questions for Deborah?
If you need to send a different report to Teresa, be sure and do that.
I have that, but I can send it to her.
Well, you can hand it to me.
Yeah, I sent her the report I gave at the board meeting. I wanted to include the parent group we're trying to get on this.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Next up is Jerry Arnold, our Public Works Director. How's it going, Jerry?
Good, how are you?
Okay.
Well, I have a very short report, and I know that's gonna kill everybody. I can sing or something if you'd like. Just a couple things that aren't on my report that I wanted to touch base on. I did reach out to Brian Cooper with the West Virginia DOH yesterday in an email. and asked about the traffic study on Route 33. And he said he had sent an email out last week asking if there was any information available and had not heard back from him. So he would follow up with trying to get some information. He'd let us know just as soon as he had information. So I just wanted to make everyone aware that we are following up on that.
Thanks, Jerry.
Waste Board met today, and again, that's why I don't have it formally in my report, but it's very important, I think, that we mention it. One of the things that happened was we were just notified last week of an increase at the landfill for construction demolition debris. So with that, we had to pass that through. It's a pass-through rate for just construction demolition material at the transfer station. So that being said, the rate went from $72.25 to $97.62
per ton.
And again, that is just because the landfill raised rates, and of course that's what we do is transfer to a landfill. The other really important thing I feel is the Make It Shine days. Abby talked a little bit about the Make It Shine, April being Make It Shine month. Make It Shine, the free days at the transfer station will be, and that is for any subscriber to our waste collection service. They will be April 4th, 18th, and the 25th, and on the 25th, the Upshur County Solid Waste Authority will also have a shred event and the celebration of the Crossroads at the Crossroads Recycling Center. And with the Crossroads Recycling Center, the board would like this evening to move ahead with a signage campaign and some educational literature as an attempt to keep or reduce the contamination at Crossroads and continue the program there. And again, it's about 4-to-1 right now, waste versus recyclables. Under my report, again, the water department continuing to work on installing a new valve on the airport road, repaired a leak on Cinema Drive, and replaced a pump shaft at the Tennerton Booster Station. Sewer department's back to working on the C.J. Martin sewer extension project on Brushy Fork, and Crew 2 continues to work on storm sewer on College Avenue. The maintenance crew's installing, or have installed the signs out on 33 on the sewer line extension project. Street, we're continuing to work on the theater, and as time permits and weather, working on sidewalks at the corners, trying to get that Spring Street wrapped up. Under engineering, I've got nothing new to report. That doesn't mean whenever I have nothing new to report, just to say that, you know, the director says that too. And that doesn't mean that Jay and I have sat on our laurels for 2 weeks. It means that rather than bore you all with saying the same thing, you know, if you have questions, we'll answer your questions.
Questions for Jerry?
I think it's important to expand upon the Crossroads issue a little bit too. We have citizens here tonight and we have viewers watching to explain exactly the troubles that we're experiencing there. It's such a great concept to have that center for recycling, but it's kind of going haywire. Would you mind expanding on that a little bit?
Well, at last meeting, there was lots of questions about why we had someone posted there and why we were being so restrictive with materials. And the reason for being so restrictive with materials is because, again, the downturn in recycling globally and the impact just on the national level has caused the folks that we market our material to increase their contamination level acceptance. So in them doing that, the material that we could once market, even with the contamination level that we achieved out there, was acceptable. Now it's not. So we have to retool our efforts in trying to remove that contamination level. And like I said, right now, we're about 4-to-1. We're on what's coming in that can't be recycled that's being put in the bins as opposed to what we can actually recycle. And like I said at last meeting, it's extremely difficult, once it's commingled in the bins, to sort it. It's very labor intensive, and I don't know if you've ever tried to sort newspapers in a quantity that one of the bins hold, but it's virtually impossible to sort slicks from newspapers. So, we also have, and again, I call them the knuckleheads. We have a knucklehead that brings their garbage out there, and just because they don't want to pay a garbage bill, they throw it in a recycling bin. And some of the pictures that Jeff Walmsley had at the board meeting this afternoon from the plastic bins had closed baskets in it. And you know, we post pictures, we do signage, I think we do pretty well on our signage. And nowhere on the signs will you see that we accept closed baskets or coolers or things of that nature in the plastic bins. So.
And that contaminated the whole content, the contents in there.
Absolutely.
So everybody that did the right thing and put bottles, water bottles and all of that, it was undone by one person just dumping some garbage.
And again, we have very good cameras on that site. But once that bag of materials is raised to that bin and opened up in the confines of that bin, our cameras can't see that. They can see if it's set on the ground or someone's just, you know, blatantly littering, or you know, if it's an opaque bag, you might be able to see some materials that don't belong there that they dumped in the bin. But most of the times that contamination has happened, you know, and really there's nothing we can do to curb that other than man that facility and go through everything to being placed in the bin as it's coming in.
Well, it is time consuming because Saturday morning, I rarely ever have bottles. I drink our good old city tap water, but I had all kinds of junk mail and papers. It takes a long time to sort that stuff, and the window envelopes. I was as guilty as anybody. I would just take my pile of mail, figuring it was all paper, and just stick it in the bag and take it out there and put it in the paper side. But I tore up I took the plastic window part out of the envelope, took all the slicks out of the newspaper, and then I get, you know, American Express always wants me to get a new credit card, and their envelopes are really, they're cardboard, really, and then they have the exterior is a jaggedy material with that's slick, but it's kind of like sandpaper too. I would just, in my mind, I'm just like, well, it's just junk mail, and just put it in the bin. But it took me about 45 minutes just for about this much to go through on Saturday morning to do it the right way. And you know, there's a lot of waste that way, which is really unfortunate because I recycled about 60% and then had about 40% over here with like, well, you know, that's not going to be acceptable at the center, which is really, it's unfortunate, but I mean, that's what it's going to take for people to do. And
now the problem, and I've used this analogy, I think with Randy and with Nathan Fetty, who's on the waste board. The problem, and you just spoke to it, is people that are truly trying to recycle the right way, put the time in it. You said 45 minutes of time that you spent doing that material. If you take it out there and you put it in that car or that newspaper bin, your material's good, clean. It only takes one person then to come in,
right?
And all of your efforts
are gone
for naught. So that's what I was saying about. I used it at the waste board about the convenience of Crossroads. You know, we're very hesitant about stopping programs, but if we can't meet criteria, if we can't recycle it, no matter how convenient it is for folks, if it's not being recycled, what good is it doing other than costing the city more money to landfill?
I would just encourage people to do some research because I started looking up some things as to, it never dawned on me that window envelopes were a problem. Who really, you would think that if you opened up a piece of mail and you could recycle the paper and then you just throw the envelope in there with it. It never dawned on me that was, even though the window only may be just a small little part of it, but it does take some time.
And with the changing markets, like I said, we were we were marketing newspapers, magazines, and slicks together. And then they said, we will no longer accept that. It has to be newsprint only. And so, like I said, you know, that's not a bargain. We would continue to do that. But it's very hard to sort newspapers.
Thanks, Jim.
Yes,
Other
sir.
questions for Jerry before we let him go? Jerry, tell all the guys we couldn't do most of what we do without the guys in the streets, water, waste, and sewer. Amby Jenkins, Finance Director. Hi.
I'm pretty happy because part of my report, a big chunk of my report has to do with general liability insurance, and I can happily say that our friendly insurance agents here, if you have a lot of questions, I'll throw Jamie under the bus.
Put him through the rigmarole, right?
Oh, that's right. Okay, so in your general fund, money market and checking, balances for February 29th, we had $790,172. Your CD is at $84,557. Municipal stabilization, $513,893. Coal tax, $59,051. The Stalker Youth Center Capital Campaign, $336,595. That's with the $12,000 pledge. And then Historic Landmarks has a savings of $3,023. Let me just skip ahead here. In your bills that you're getting ready to approve here later, the ones I would note that are a little out of the ordinary, with the fire station doors had to be repaired. That was $3,004. We obtained posts for the street signs, $2,375. And there was some police street crime training seminar for $2,990. Okay, then back to the insurance. So every year we go through a review process for general liability and property insurance to renew for April 1st. And during the review, our insurance vendor, Westfield and Travelers, goes through looking at the properties. This year, we don't contract for certified appraisals in any of our property. I don't know that we ever had. So the insurance company has software that models the property and looks at square footages. Our agent believes it's overall we should probably increase our values this year about 2%. But there's 3 properties that kind of popped out as maybe needing to look at more attention. So Jamie actually came and looked at these properties, and then we talked about them. Stalker Youth Center was insured at $1,447,750, and it's recommended we go to $2,350,000. Charles Gibson Library was at $234,600. It should be at $415,000. And then the theater, we've done quite a bit of work in there, and it should be the value of that should have been increased to about $450,000. Our agent's still looking at the water and sanitary plant. He went out and looked at them because even though you have square footage, there's a lot of valuable equipment within those plants, and he wanted to kind of make sure those were insured properly, so he's taking inventory there as well. Another part of the review, I know you know this, but I want to remind you, volunteer fire insurance for the vehicles at the fire department. If you'll remember, the city takes the entire amount of that premium over July 1st because the county turned those vehicles over to us, so that's all on our backs now. That premium is $5,138 a year. Our share of that used to be $1,834, and the county paid $3,304. So in reviewing these trucks, along with me, JB, and Jamie, there's a place to save some premium if we would change the deductible, and we can make this decision next meeting, but I just wanted you to be aware of that. If we have a $500 deductible. If we take it to $2,000, we save $1,000, $1,004 a year. $3,000 deductible, we'd save $1,433. And if you went clear to a $5,000 deductible, it'd be $2,148. I wouldn't particularly recommend you go to 5,000 because we have a lot more exposure now with the calls that goes out, and I think that even though we only have maybe 3 to 4 claims and not large ones in a 3 to 4 year period, that we may have more as we're getting more calls. So I think it probably needs changed from 500, but I don't know. We need to look at that the next meeting. Let's see, the other thing I wanted to bring up to council is the health insurance. I'm getting concerned about what we're funding in claims and what we're paying in claims. For the last 3 months, and I think it's going to happen again this month, we're paying out more in claims than what we funded claims. So what happens is that they'll send me a bill and say, you owe us $40,000 more because we didn't have enough funded to cover those claims. So I did go to the county because I knew they went with PEIA, and I just wanted to talk to them about what their premiums were. They're different a little bit than us, but I wanted to talk to them about their premiums, and I heard that they saved quite a bit in premiums by switching at July 1. So I talked to the agent, and he actually got me an audience with PEIA because I had a lot of questions on the PEIA side, and he was able to get me an audience with him right away. And it's sometimes hard to navigate through all of those bureaucracies, but he got me to talk to the right person. So I would like council, if they wouldn't mind, listening to at least what he has to offer. And then in the meantime, I've also had some, these agents know that we renew July 1, so I've had 2 others approaching me, wanting to quote again. Quote. Jamie, I've asked him to go ahead and quote again too. If the others are going to quote, he should be able to too. And we've got a budget work session on the 13th, and I don't know if council would want to listen to what he had to say then, or if you want to set up, I know you don't want to set up a lot of special meetings, or how you want to do that, but he's willing to come back in on the 13th. I can either set him up before work session or after work session, just so you can hear what he says. Some of the things he's showing me is about a $300,000 savings in premiums, and less out of pocket for the employees.
13th is on a Friday.
Yep, Friday the 13th.
What time of day are we meeting?
The work session's at 5:30.
Oh, that's a great way to kick off the weekend.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
One of the things that jumped out at me when I read the employee reviews that Jerry Arnold submitted was there was questions about the insurance. That several employees seemed to have problems tracking down answers, getting clarifications. Am I capturing that correctly?
I think so. That was a lot. Again, council got the report.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this too, though. They were concerned before we switched too. I think Jamie would agree. A lot of this goes back to health insurance just ain't what it used to be, and it has changed a lot over the years with deductibles being increased, out-of-pocket expenses being increased, and what is covered at healthcare providers is now more in question, and it's just a lot more red tape. So I think, unfortunately, the nature of the beast is it's just, if you have people who have been used to, health insurance from a long, and my dad sees this at the college as well. I mean, the college's plan is not at all what it used to be. It used to be a Cadillac plan, and it's, they've had to make changes over the years to, because of cost. Our group health with our firm went from a $1,000 deductible to a $5,000 deductible. I think I shared that with you. It's part of the ever-raising cost of having this burden on an employer's responsibility. So, I mean, I don't want us to be in a position where we're shopping every single year. I don't think that that's good for anyone. I think that creates angst amongst our employees who wonder what's going to happen from year to year. I think from a carrier perspective, when I look at, and I'm sure Jamie looks at it too, when we look at potential customers in our business, if we see somebody that's constantly shopping every single year, that's that's kind of volatile, and you can put an awful lot of work, from a carrier's perspective is what I'm talking right now, you can put an awful lot of work into an account and know that the very next year they could leave you. So I think, we want to be careful with getting into a habit of shopping every single year. I think a 3-4 year period is really good, just to keep ourselves sharp. I've shared this with you before. I mean, I hear what you're saying about the savings from PEIA. I do have major concerns though over, all that has to happen is for the state to have a rough year and they go and attack PEIA and we've seen that with the education strikes over the past couple of years. It can be an area that's a big target for the state to go through and say, this is an area we can mess with to save some money. So I'm open to listening. I just would caution the council that we want to make sure that it's a delicate balancing act. We don't want to become a group that shops every year, but we do want to make sure that we're providing our employees the very best we can possibly provide.
Well, as an independent businessman, I shop. I mean, you have to shop, and I hear what Robbie's saying, but the agent's not setting the rates as much as the
we don't
industry,
set the rates at all.
Exactly, as the industry that you're bringing to the table to be insured. And from what I read in those reports, it wasn't necessarily, it was service. It was the fact that they couldn't get answers. They couldn't get a hold of the proper people. Whether you write the policy or Jamie write the policy or whomever write the policy, you have to be able to get in touch with people and get answers. This is a critical part of our financial structure as families, as employees, as individuals, and the arrogance of any organization, of any insurer that won't give answers is unacceptable.
Well, I've spoken, I think there were some that didn't even have his correct contact information, which that has been corrected at this, from what I understand.
Right.
But not saying that that's all of it, I'm saying that there were a few.
As an employee, and I'm speaking for some of the employees, some of their concerns, after we met with Mr. Tawney, some of the problems I have with it, and like I said, some of the other employees, is I shouldn't have to contact an agent to ask a question about my health insurance. I should be able to contact the number on my insurance card. And those folks should know what kind of product we have, what benefits we have available to us. And I was told in that meeting that, well, don't call that number, call me directly, here's my cell phone number, which I gave the employees. But a lot of the employees don't want the agent to know their health issues. They don't want to discuss it with an agent, they want to discuss it with the insurance company. So that's the reluctancy on the employees' parts. And Randy's exactly right. In the surveys, almost all of the issues we were having were communication issues.
Would an hour do it with the PEIA?
Jamie.
Yeah, I think so.
Jamie, do you want to be heard?
All I was going to say is, I agree with a lot of what Robbie is saying, that a lot of companies get worried when you shop every single year back and forth on insurance. However, this is a little different case too. I met with Laura Holdren, who is a Blue Cross representative for new business for the state of West Virginia. And she's talked to Blue Cross and also talked about the health plan. There's also that shopping around. You guys aren't an organization that has historically shopped from organization to organization every single year. And sometimes when you make such a drastic change as going from a fully insured program to a self-insured program where you're Blue Cross, and Blue Cross is known as the gold standard. My personal guess is gentleman from PIA, I know he told Carries, we talked about that. I mean, they would even describe Blue Cross as the gold standard in service. As you said, a lot of times the city employees before would have a question, they'd call me, and sometimes we would talk about it, and sometimes it was just a matter of getting in touch with the correct person. But what I was saying about the shopping is sometimes, and Blue Cross has seen this in a lot of cases where an organization will try the self-funded plan, especially organizations that are under that 100 employees because they're not releasing the claims data. They go to that self-funded and all of a sudden they realize two things. One, the cost savings they expected to get wasn't there.
Bedtime.
Meds kicked in.
will kick in. And like, I was gonna say, and the other thing they find out is that sometimes the accounting aspect isn't easy.
Sorry.
That's all right. But sometimes they find out the accounting aspect isn't easy. If that's something you were interested in going back to, Lord, like to sometime come down, just have a meeting with the city to find out what you liked and what you didn't like, and see what they could look at. And to go with the comments, I have no idea what the customer comments are. I've had a couple of different employees come to me with different things for them. But I don't know, if your comments are related around, I don't like my deductible, I don't like this, I don't like that, and it's all about a deductible or something going up, then as Robbie's saying, that might be a simple issue of things have changed. We no longer have health care with a zero deductible and everything's paid for. If your comments are more geared around, I can't get a hold of my agent, they're not paying any of my claims, I went to the doctor, they're not paying this, I had an operation, they're not paying this, then you got a problem with your health provider. And taunting should not have to get in on every single one of these claims. And if they're either being paid or they're not being paid, it should be a pretty simple process. So that's all I would have to say about that. Again, I don't know what the issues are, but...
What would your thoughts be on PEIA? Not to put you on the spot, but, I mean...
Well, my thoughts on PEIA is, again, Mom and Bill have PEIA. I know a lot of people do, a lot of teachers do. It's a good insurance as far as what they cover. My fear with PEIA is, and here's the advantage they've got over any standard lines health carrier we can talk about. Blue Cross is still there. I mean, if they take in $1 in premium, 80% of that premium, 80 cents, has to go to claims. So they've got 20 cents for administration and everything else, which they try to make sure that they're using that. PEIA has a unique advantage if they can run $120 million in the red. And the state legislature can make the decision to fund that, or the state legislature at any given time, and I've heard some people in here could basically have a tough budget year and go, oh, wait a minute, we're going to change deductibles, we're going to change this, we're going to adjust this, and it's changes on a massive level. The other concern I have with PEIA, and I have this concern with anything, with you get into a self-funded program, some of the others, is there are some times with a company like PEIA where I believe you have to sign up, and I could be wrong, is I think it's a 3-year contract.
Couldn't tell you that.
I could be wrong, but I believe with PEIA, there is a 3-year contract, and then I know at least in the past, again, I don't sell PEIA. State, they pay their claims, they do a great job, I don't think you have any issues with that, but sometimes you do get into where you've got a contract, and if all of a sudden they're raising this, there have been organizations where it's costing them more, and they're having a harder time getting out of it. And I don't know if you're...
I just know that, the 3-year forecast is that the next year a 16% raise or 16% increase is being forecast with PEIA, and then the following year a 24% increase is being forecast for PEIA. So, I mean, those are, and when we had Highmark, I mean, our increase was around 10. So I mean, 24%. That's.
I agree.
But we're starting out with a much lower premium is what he's telling us. I mean, a much lower premium. Plus the retirees that we pay for now, that bill goes away. That's $126,000 a year by itself. So I mean, I think we have to listen to it. And I don't like to shop insurance. This is a lot of work to take care of insurance. And the self-funded part has become much more work. The problem I have is that I'm seeing us going backwards at an early stage. I mean, we're not even a year into it, and I know things has happened that I have not even seen, and we're already owing more money. So the solution to that is to up our claims. Well, that's increasing our premium. We're going to be paying more in this than we paid the previous year for insurance. And the point was try to save money, and we aren't. So far, we are not, and I don't think we're going to because I know some of the claims that are coming in. I'm concerned. I'm just telling you that as a financial person here that I think I see things that could go downhill quickly in another year.
To answer your question, ultimately, we talk about PEIA. Don't get me wrong, I would love to write you guys with Blue Cross with a health plan, but if I was anybody sitting on that council, I would do my due diligence and get a PEIA quote. I mean, I simply would. There would be no, you've got to. I mean, and if it came back and it was a small amount, I'd probably take all options there, but I would look at that option. I mean, because it doesn't hurt anybody to look. And even in this case, when you're concerned about the shopping, I would definitely, because you've been in it 1 year, but again, you made such a drastic change, and I didn't realize that, but if Andy's saying you're spending more for a self-funded plan than what you're going to for Blue Cross at their offer last year, I can guarantee you there's nobody out there that's going to give you the service Blue Cross was. And I would venture to say PEIA is probably, as far as actually just handling the claims and paying it, probably better than most of the self-funded plans. So I would at least look.
We're scheduled to meet at 5:30 on September 13th. Amby, could arrangements be made to meet with your PEIA contact, say, at 4:30?
Yeah.
Does that sound acceptable, council? Can we come out at 4:30?
Yeah.
On Friday the 13th?
What are we having for dinner?
Friday the 13th.
Macaulay's cooking.
Friday the 13th. My God, it just keeps getting worse.
Wow.
What are you doing to us?
Are you talking about the time or are you talking about your cooking?
That's what works best for you also.
Yeah,
It's your fault.
thanks, Amby.
Well, that's better than Saturday the 14th, I guess.
I'm hearing a collective, okay,
that's fine.
schedule the rep for 4:30 on the 13th. Any questions for Amby before we let her retire? I mean, not retire. Never.
Goodbye, Abby.
Chief Kimball, how's it going down there?
Good, I'm gonna be brief.
You're getting prized tonight.
120 responses in the month of February. That's a tick up from January. Fires were down a little bit. Typically fires are up in February, but they were down, thank God. We always talk about youth engagement. Over the past couple weeks, the trade school electrical class came to the firehouse for a couple of days and put a new electrical service into our new gear washer. So we had a morning class twice and an afternoon class twice of about 20 students. A lot of questions about the fire department were asked, and a lot of them were answered. We joked around with them, had a good time. They have a good teacher over there, and they did a good job. So hopefully, maybe we encourage some kids, wherever they were from, to try to become volunteer firemen or career firemen, wherever they're from. So set up the CPR class for all city employees today. It's going to be on Friday, March 20th. We will have an 8:30 class for people that can make it in the morning, and we'll have a 1 p.m. class for people that can make it in the afternoon. And I would encourage everybody on council and the mayor to try to attend one of them if we could. And Jerry and myself are encouraging all employees. Amby says we can't force them, but we would like to have 100% turnout. This is very important on our Heart Safe initiative, that all our employees are certified in first aid and CPR and AED usage.
Can you remind everybody what day this is again?
March 20th, February, March 20th.
Friday, March 20th.
8:30 a.m. is the morning class, and 1 p.m. will be the afternoon. So that way, Amby can split her crew up if they want to come down in the morning and another crew come in the afternoon.
Cool.
I've also spoke with Chief Gregory. He's in agreement. We're going to purchase an AED for the Heart Safe initiative to put in one active police cruiser every shift. So his members can also respond on any cardiac arrest in the city limits, which is a big, because they're out and about a lot, gives a quick response. So that's all I have, unless you would allow me to move F2 up.
Well, no, that would be just about strategic down, right?
Yeah.
Council on vote chair prerogative to bring F2 to the table to approve, easy for me to say, to approve the submittal to the Buckhannon Fire Department of the FEMA Assistant to Firefighters Grant application. So we'll bring it to the table. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
This is not the SAFER grant. This is a gear grant that the Buckhannon Volunteer Fire Department is writing. Here in a second, I'll let Lieutenant Baxa, he's actually the one that's managing it. It's to replace some aging equipment we have. Being that the city and the Buckhannon Volunteer Departments share the same fire department ID number, we have to go through the city's DUNS number and all the numbers to apply for grants. So it's just for their approval. But I'll let Lieutenant Baxa come up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, you're going to bring us a name for the 15th annual festival?
Yes.
Okay.
Working on that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Councilman, how are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Hey, good. Hey, just real fast, I'm not gonna keep it. Just kind of let you guys know, since you're gonna have to vote on to let us use the Duns and Sam's number, kind of what it is. In 2017, when Chief Townsend was here, he got us packs from California to upgrade from a low pressure to high pressure, more capacity, more working time, better for us. Their manufacture dates were 2001 to 2004 on those air packs. So we're getting ready to push the 20-year mark on them. Currently, we have 30 of those air packs in service. The grant we're writing is for 26, where we got rid of engine 11. So that kind of dropped off 4 of our air packs. So it helped out a little bit there. They're $7,500 each, or $7,500 each. So the total for the grant on the air packs is $195,000. We are also writing for RIP packs, which is just a safety pack we have outside in case something happens inside that we can go in and use that to get more air. They're $3,000 each. There's 5 of them. It's a total of $210,000 on the grant. If awarded, again, this is kind of through the volunteers, so it's only $9,904 that would be their part of the $210,000 grant. So just something, it's an opportunity, it's money out there, so you might as well take advantage of it. So that's the only reason we're asking to use the Duns and Sams. We've used it in the past for other grants that I've actually wrote for too. So nothing really money-wise for the council, it's just approval to use the Duns and Sams number is what it is.
Let me clarify that just a little bit. It is actually, because it is the city's Duns number, what I explained to JV is that the city is actually applying, but he's doing all the work.
Yeah.
The funds would come into the city, and then the volunteers would contribute that share that's needed into the city's funds, because it does have to run through the city's accounts.
So zero net cost to the city.
That's right. It will show up in your books, but
That's
it's
the
no
easiest
cost.
vote we can make.
I just want to make make that clear, that you will see it. You'll see it because the check will be written to us because of the Duns and, because of the Duns and federal ID numbers.
So what I'm hearing is a recommendation from Chief Kimball, Lieutenant Baxa, and Amby Jenkins that we be permitted to apply for the FEMA Assistance Firefighters Grant application.
So moved.
I have a motion by Thomas and a second by Skinner.
that.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for that question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Be safe, first and foremost.
Thank you, guys.
That's the vote we had all night.
Tom O'Neill, almost ready to get down into that correspondence and information.
That's all right. I mean, the matters that we dealt with earlier are really what
The crux of
all
our
I've got. I'd be
stuff.
happy to discuss or take any questions, but those issues have been.
Any questions for Tom on any other legal front?
Where'd you get that suit? Oh, I'm sorry, legal front, I'm sorry, we'll talk later.
Joseph A. Bank.
Okay.
There are some developments in the opioid litigation.
Yes, we have to complete and submit some paperwork, proof of claims information. I'll be working with Amby.
Purdue Pharmaceuticals has gone belly, right? They're in bankruptcy.
Yeah, and so because of the pending litigation, we have to now kind of work through that. So, part of that bankruptcy is the funding of a massive claims fund. So it's just more hoops to jump through.
But didn't they squirrel a lot of money away?
Yeah, and I mean, they've got to account for all of it through the court. The trustee, I don't envy the trustee's job, that's for sure. That's good.
Other questions for Tom? Thanks, Tom. Correspondence and information. You got a bunch of stuff in your packet. There are the letters of support for the medical cannabis companies. There's the notice of special city council working session Friday, March 13th. Not at 5:30 now, but at 4:30. That doesn't mean we get out earlier now. It's just going to start earlier. And that's an important session though. Notice of advertisement for the bids for Gateway West Phase 2, the light pole assemblies and globes bid. I think that's supposed to be country roads transit and not county roads transit. The van statistics and the request for financial support. The Whistle Stop Grill zoning compliance video lottery form. The SYCC donor model and recognition status, naming rights criteria, and the origins of SYCC narrative, and the MOU that I was authorized to sign 2 weeks ago with Citizens Bank. That's your correspondence and information. The consent agenda, folks, consists of 3 things. If you approve this, you'd be approving the minutes from our last regular meeting of February 20th. You'd be approving the building and wiring permits, and you would be approving the payment of the general fund bills. I'd entertain a motion, we approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mrs. Bucklew. May I have a second to her motion?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Skinner. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign, motion carries. So now we're down to 2 strategic matters, F3 and F4, both of which pertain to recommendations coming from our Planning Commission. F3 is the first of these 2. The Planning Commission has recommended a zoning change. The property owner AT&T Enterprises LLC property on Brushy Fork Road from Military District to C2 Highway Commercial District. Mr. Sanders, you were at that
Yes.
auspicious event. Is there anything you want to say about that?
No, they went through the request thoroughly and looked at drawings, looked at the proposed building and business and so forth. And
Vincent Smith's good with it.
Vincent Smith is good with it, yes.
Zoning officer.
Yes, so they, their recommendation was to move it to council for approval.
Folks, we've conducted everything we needed to do with the public hearing before the Planning Commission. It's the best Planning Commission we've ever had. They've recommended to us that we have to do this by ordinance, by the way, so Tom's going to be busy, that we're going to change a portion of our military district to C2 Highway Commercial District. I'd entertain a motion that we enact that recommendation.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Skinner. May I have a second to his motion? I have a second by Mr. Sanders. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign, motion carries. And F4, the last strategic matter of the night. Again, a recommendation from the Planning Commission for a zoning change. Property owner is the Upshur County Development Authority, property on Brushy Fork Road, from Military District to Industrial District. You want to brief us on that? Just again, it's a
Sort of the same thing, and to one disclosure, one board member or commission member had concern that the potential use is going to be for a medical cannabis facility and thought maybe a town or a community hearing on it might be a good way to go. But at the end, the motion was to approve the change as requested and send it to council with the recommendation to approve.
Ladies and gentlemen of council, I'd entertain a motion that we approve F4, the recommendation from our Planning Commission to change a portion of the Upshur County Development Authority's property from what is currently zoned as Military District to Industrial District. May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Skinner, a second by Mr. Sanders. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign, motion carries.
Right, yes, say aye.
Comments and announcements. Mary Allball? Nothing. She's in Betty Bye already. Pam Bucklew.
Yeah, I just want to remind people that you can get here at City Hall the customer authorization to add money to your monthly utility bill to go toward either Stockard Youth, the Flowers, Colonial Theater, or the dog park. I've had some people ask me about that. Does anybody know if we've had very many people come in and ask for these, Andy?
A few, but not,
Okay. Is there any way we could put this in the newspaper?
Yeah.
And people can know that they can do that?
The name of the form is like customer authorization.
Customer authorization to add to their utility bill.
It's in your packet too.
Yeah. And just wanted to ask people to support the Stockard Youth in any way they can. We really do need that building. We're having that fundraiser bingo. We're having hopefully a lot of nice gifts to give out. It's on Sunday afternoon. Come out and support it. We'll have food. We'll have tips. And a lot of things to give away. And the tickets are $25, and I'm selling them if anybody wants one, for 2 or 3 or 4.
What's the grand gift? They said the 20th.
Well, we're hoping to have a smoker grill as the biggest prize, and hopefully maybe you can give us some money.
Maybe.
Anything else, Pam?
No, that's it.
Mr. Rollins has also gone Betty Bye. Mr. Skinner?
No further comments.
Mr. Thomas?
Just to let people know, when is the first meet the candidate night. That's this coming Monday, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
And where is that?
At the-
It's at the.
Western College.
It's at, 7 Performing Arts Center. and we're
Performing
asking
Arts Center at
candidates-
7 o'clock at the college.
And we're asking candidates to come at 6:30, just to go over the format.
Okay.
Monday,
That-
March 9th.
It's been a nice question to ask them what they think about the thing we just did in regard to the Madison Avenue,
It would be.
you know.
Mr. Sanders.
We have a preview of a question.
Mr. Sanders.
No, comments. I think we did some good work tonight. I know that there is concern about moving forward sometimes in projects like we just did. I'm comfortable with the vote of cast and look forward to hearing comments and seeing our responses over the next couple of weeks, and then we have our second hearing. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple of quick things. The Stockert building, we have to realize that building. We absolutely have to realize that building. We are bursting at the seams. It's a good problem to have when you have a facility like ours that we simply don't have enough space to put the kids. But I've put about $4,000 of my own money in this. My goal is, I've got 7 grandchildren. God forbid if I get any more, but I'm pledging $1,000 per grandchild to that.
Oh, that's why.
So it's all about the money, no more for a while. And then the other thing is, I'd like the council to be mindful of to join the library board. They will be here at the meeting on the 19th. But at 6:30 on the 19th, we will assemble down in front of the Charles W. Gibson Memorial Library to recognize not Charles W. Gibson, but his wife, Mary Gibson, who made the bequest to establish that library way back in 1939. So it's part of Women's History Month. So we celebrated Joyce Stockert tonight. It's going to be Mary Gibson at 6:30 on Thursday, March 19th. That's all I have. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the
What
order?
about the thing the kids are gonna be at the cleaning theater next weekend?
Oh, I'm glad you said that. If you haven't stuck your head in on the Colonial lately, and you know, the naysayers at that stupid theater, and why don't they do stuff for kids? For crying out loud, people, we've been saying for 3 years, the Colonial Theater is all about the kids, okay? So next Saturday will be the first of 4 Saturdays where all 9 schools in Upshur County, the art of all of those kids will be featured in the to be dedicated next Saturday gallery in the Colonial Theater. So please come out for that and show your appreciation for some of the great talent that we have with the kids of Upshur County. I'm so glad you mentioned that, Pam. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order?
Get a brownie point for that.
Yeah, definitely. I'd entertain a motion that we adjourn. Skinner motion, do I have a second to his motion? I got a second by Sanders. We're out of here. See you guys back on the 19th.